Hi, my name is Ray McCormick, and my partners are Brenda Laura and Ricardo Herrera, and we are from Iowa State University. Today, we're discussing our ism topic, which is society's portrayal of ableism.
So, before we dive into our study of ableism, we must first understand how it is defined. So, unlike many other isms, the target population for ableism isn't very specific, which can make it hard for many people to understand how it is affecting many populations. So, when people refer to ableism, normally they are referring to it as a discrimination against those with physical or mental handicaps. However, the scope of discrimination expands much more broadly than just those two groups. Ableism is defined as a preference for certain abilities over others. Therefore, it is a discrimination against those who are lacking certain abilities, such as holding certain physical abilities, holding a certain level of education, or even having a certain skill set. So, examples of discrimination can feature against those in the elderly population for not being as tech savvy or as not being as agile as today's younger generations. It can also be present against those of color for not having the same access to resources as those in predominantly white areas. So ableism can include many other isms because of how widely it targets all populations. And the term disability is a word that is used to define someone who is lacking of a skill set, but since these abilities are defined by society, being disabled is defined by society as well. So therefore, a person is only disabled if society considers them to be so. And as a result, ableism can be viewed as one of the most heavily prominent isms in today's society, but due to the many factors that hide it, it can also be viewed as one of the least talked about as well. So some basic terms and definitions to describe ableism is the word disability, which is a social construct which is defined as any condition that is more difficult for someone to perform. And notice emphasis on the dis part of the word disability, because disability is defined by society and is only present if someone considers someone to be disabled. The next word is also known as the R word, retardation or retard. And originally, it was used in the medical field and is still used in the medical field today to describe the slow development of something or a system within someone's body. But unfortunately, society has turned it into a derogatory term to refer to someone as mentally inferior than another. Now, accessibility is the ultimate goal to fight ableism, and is a process of making things more usable for all people across all populations so that there are no barriers. And now finally, the words handicap and impairment kind of go hand in hand. They mean the weakened system or a slow progression or a difficult progression of something within someone's mental or physical body.
Throughout history, discrimination has been used to keep marginalized groups of people out of power, whether they were actually disabled according to medical theories. Since the medical and social model of disablement does not have boundaries, it could be changed over time to take power away from certain groups of people. A big turning point in ableism history was the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution brought the capitalist market society to its peak, which meant if you were not able-bodied, you were viewed as worthless. Beforehand, when agriculture was the most important part of the economy, disabled people could still be included. After the Industrial Revolution, they became domestic. Since there were few labor laws during this time, many people were overworked in dangerous conditions and were more likely to become physically disabled. This meant most working class people who became disabled also became poor. This led to society viewing them with even lower value due to their lack of income. This lack of economic, social, and cultural capital created a cycle of disability that led to a lower quality of life. Ableism has also been in legislature when various laws are made to discriminate against people for their race, color, gender, class, and sexual orientation. For example, Black people were previously considered cognitively impaired to classify them as less than people in order to justify slavery and racism. Native Americans were also considered savages to signify they were less than white people to justify such laws as the Indian Removal Act. In 1881, the American Ugly Law was made to stop physically disabled and disfigured people to appear in public. This law led to advertisement of prostheses, but these were only advertised to the upper middle class who could afford it. Laws like this limit a person's right just by their disability, but the blatant classism is also very visible here. Also in the late 1800s, sign language was banned from being taught at schools to attempt to force deaf people to talk instead of using sign. Sign language was referred to as a language used with animals, once again dehumanizing disabled people and the deaf community in particular. Later in 1924, the court decision Buck versus Bell legalized involuntary sterilization of people with certain disabilities, such as epilepsy, mental illness, and intellectual impairment, because they were hereditary inferiorities that many believed should not be passed on. And lastly, in the 1900s, ableism was used to discriminate against the LGBTQ plus community, specifically queer women, when doctors decided lesbianism was a disease or disorder caused by excess lustfulness of women, thus implying that women could not simply be attracted to other women, but it was out of their own bad behavior that this attraction was brought on.
More than 1 in 4 adults live with a disability in America. That's about 26%, and that is more than 61 million Americans. As shown in the picture on the right, there is a map with a bunch of people in it, and the people in yellow are represent the people who are not disabled, and blue represents the people who are disabled. As you can see, a bunch of different people of all different types are living in America with a disability, a lot more than some people might have thought. Some everyday ableist comments include the R word, schizo, ADHD, and OCD. The use of the R word is used in replacement of the word stupid. Schizo is a shortened term for schizophrenia, but is used derogatorily for crazy. ADHD is used to describe minimal but not medical unfocus. OCD is used to mean organized. The picture on the right shows former President Donald Trump. During his campaign for presidency, he had mocked a disabled. I'm so sorry. I literally don't know what I'm doing. Okay. I promise this is the last one. Okay. More than 1 in 4 adults live with a disability currently. That's about 26% and more than 61 million Americans. The picture to the right shows people in the United States that are living with and without a disability. The color blue represents the people living with a disability, and the color yellow represents people living without a disability. As you can see, there's a bunch of different people who are living with a disability, and it seems like a lot more than we could have thought. Some everyday ableist comments include the R word, schizo, ADHD, and OCD. The use of the R word is used in replacement of the word stupid. Schizo is a shortened term for the word schizophrenic, but is used derogatorily for crazy. ADHD is used to describe minimal but not medical unfocus, and OCD is used to mean organized. The picture to the right shows former President Donald Trump mocking a disabled reporter. During his campaign, he mocked a disabled reporter by flailing his arms around and stuttering quite a bit. This is very ableist because it shows that he's making fun of someone for being disabled and making it seem that he is less than. Some movies, books, and TV shows that society portrays ableism in include Atypical, Of Mice and Men, Flowers for Algernon, Peanut Butter Falcon, Me Before You, Wonder, Shape of Water, and A Beautiful Mind.
So, to try and effectively combat ableism in today's society, we need to implement what is referred to as social innovation. And social innovation refers to those changes in agendas, agency, and institutions that lead to a better inclusion of excluded groups and individuals in various spheres of society at various spatial scales. So, in other words, we need to try and become more inclusive of all different populations and try and implement them and try and allow them better access to other opportunities here in society. And we can do this by changing society's perspective on what it means to be disabled. And for example, we can empower disabled people to speak up against the barriers that are blocking them from attaining the same resources and opportunities as everyone else in today's society. Furthermore, we can include greater diversity in gender in the media today, such as in many industries, such as the news or sports media, which are heavily dominated by males. By including more women, we can further inspire other marginalized groups to try and rise to attain the same kind of resources and opportunities that many other people aren't able to obtain. And finally, we can also help educate students and employees about diversity in the school and in the workplace so that they may become more accepting of people of different backgrounds.
We would like to say thank you so much for attending our presentation. Again, I'm Ray, we have Brenda and Ricardo, and we discussed society's portrayal of ableism.